evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello.
And today we're really excited as we continue our Drive-In Owners series. We have John Heidel, who is the founder, owner, and chief dreamer over at the Goochland Drive-In in Hadensville, Virginia. And you guys know it. If you're a fan of the podcast, if you're a fan of the Mahoning, the drive-in landscape has gone basically down to a very small group of us. And the idea of this Drive-In Owners series is to shine a light on every single one that has really faced the ups and downs of the industry. And most every single one that we have talked to thus far have been that relic revival story, like the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, a land that in its heyday was thriving in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, fell on the hard times, and then a group or the next generation in the family decided to revive it. But today with John, we have a rare story of a gamble to go ground floor with an operation. And he did this in 2009 when the world was talking about Netflix shutting down video stores. So we were in a total different world, certainly not a world that was talking about drive-ins. So happy to report that this gamble has paid off. His fans refer to the Goochland as the GDIT, but here at the Mahoning, we lovingly refer to it as the Gooch. Welcome, John.
I love it. Hey, thank you guys for having me. I am honored. As I mentioned before we came on air, you guys are legends and celebrities in the drive-in world, and it's very cool that you guys reached out. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Oh, that means the world because, you know, your story is rare. Like I mentioned, the idea that somebody has the dream and makes that dream a reality, it's really something that we hear on a regular basis because our story is out there. People reach out and say, all I want to do is own a drive-in. My only dream is to own a drive-in.
Oh, yeah.
And it inspires. And you're somebody who had that dream and actually made it happen. So why don't we start there? 2009, right? 2009,
the origin, as all stories have an origin, actually dates back to the idea of opening a drive-in, dates back about 3 or 4 years prior to that. We had, my wife Christina and I had 2 small children, but we were clamoring for a night out, and let's go to the movies. Well, you try to do that, even a matinee with 2 small children, and that movie, 20 minutes into the movie, one of us is out in the car with the younger one. Yep. And we just dropped $85. We tried that a couple of times, I guess, because we just wanted to punish ourselves. But we finally, I said, we're driving home, and we just dropped another $85, $90. And I said, you know what? Let's try a drive-in. The problem was, as is the case most everywhere today, there weren't any around.
Yep.
And so that's when the wheels started turning, and said, hey, if there are other folks out there like us, it was out of necessity, basically. We want to go out. We don't want to spend a lot of money. We want it to be kid-friendly.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole motivation began. Hey, could there really be a drive-in in the 21st century?
Yeah, I love that. We always say the magic in the sauce here at the Mahoning is it's a blend of the old school and the new school, and you kind of have to marry those two together. And inherently, the drive-in culture is classic. The whole appeal of it is classic. It brings back memories of the past, but giving it that spin and appeal and play into, like you said, a new generation is kind of the trick. And what was the landscape in 2009? I know at a certain point, Virginia was home to, I think, 140 plus drive-ins.
There were quite a bit.
Yeah. And now you're down to...
Yeah, I think at that point we had like 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
But they were all spread out. You know how it goes, 2.5 hour radius, that sort of thing. So, and most were in the southwestern part of the state as you get down close to Tennessee. At any rate, you know, the cost of housing and real estate had been kind of going through a tumultuous time right about that time. But things were still pretty high. The funny thing was when you would, you know, my wife is a CPA and I'm kind of an entrepreneur / businessman / dreamer. And so we thought we had a great idea. We put together a business plan. This is the boring part of the story, but we put together a business plan.
This is the inspiring part, and the part that people, you know, again, those people who come and are like, how did he make this work? You know?
Yeah, they should hear this. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no, I don't think any of us had a book, Drive-Ins 101, that we could turn to chapter 1.
Yeah.
Or to go to. And as I found, if you reached out to some drive-in owners, number one, most of the time you couldn't ever catch them. And if you did, most often they were pretty reluctant, that I found, to kind of give up, you know, too much of what I feel like is an industry closely guarded secret and almost proprietary in some fashion, because they worked, they built, they created, they've worked out the kinks, you know, as they see it. But I was fortunate enough to come across 2 or 3 folks that were, very genuine, had a true love for drive-ins. And he mentioned to me, he asked me, he says, well, are you looking to get rich? And I said, man, that would be great. He says, well, you're looking at the wrong business, son.
Yeah.
He says, but if you take care of your customers and you have a love for it, you can make a good living. And I said, you know what, that's good enough for me. I wasn't looking at that point to build a chain or anything like that. I wanted to operate, in my mind, at least, a country drive-in that folks could come to from all around, that if you were young or old and everybody in between could enjoy, and without spending a ton of dough. So pretty much the whole drive-in mentality. You guys mentioned about the trick, and I'll get to that in a second. But once we had this business plan put together, and a very thoughtful business plan, we thought we had done our due diligence pretty well. There was no bank would talk to you, no real estate broker, no real estate agent in terms of helping you find land. As soon as they heard what you were trying to do, you lost all credibility. And
like, oh, this person's insane. Okay, next.
Right. Right. Oh, and it went on that way.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
We even went to the county, the economic development board there, and it was really funny. I didn't know who to ask for at that point, but I walked in to the main receptionist, told them what I'm trying to do for the county.
Yeah.
And she said, go down this hall, talk to these folks. I went there. They said, oh, you want to go down the other side of the hall and talk to that guy. He sent me back to someone else who ended up sending me back to the original person. They all chuckled and laughed. They didn't take it serious. Gave me a brochure about starting a business in Goochland County and sent me on my way.
Yeah.
So this went on for a while. I could go into the minutia, but at any rate, we finally found a small bank willing to take a chance on us. And that's where it began, where we said, okay, we've secured some financing to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah.
You put in your life savings on a hope and a dream, and that's a tough thing. There's a lot of sleepless nights, and I tell wannabe entrepreneurs or anyone with some sort of dream, if you believe in it, and we did, and we thought we would be customers. I tell anybody, no matter what business you're looking to start, would you be a customer? And do you think you could find other people to think that way, enough people to think that way, that you may have a fair shot at it? But you can't be absentee. As you guys know, you cannot be an absentee owner, I find. You can take a night off here and there, of course, but my heart's in this, and I love it. Since we started in 2009, I've missed maybe 6 shows. So I've been there most of the time. That first night I took off was like cutting an umbilical cord, it was so weird. But I've been fortunate enough to have a good staff, as I know you guys do. And that in the last few years, that's even become more of an issue, I guess, even for all of us, no matter what business you're in. But
It's so tough, but
It is.
we're lucky in that the drive-in is appealing on a lot of levels.
Oh yeah.
People are willing to be open to the idea of taking a business model or a risk in this case and support it. Now, traditionally, the first question out the gate is, what is the landscape? But this will be a great one for you in that when it came time to finding that perfect landscape, how did that all go down? I take it you guys are away from any sort of city area and kind of a middle of nowhere situation like us.
Right. Yeah. It was. You want it, and you want to be. I mean, the ones that have to contend with ambient lighting these days, or that shopping center, or that ball field that's moved in, they have a set of challenges that we fortunately don't have to deal with. I basically found the lot on my own. I drove around for a better part of a year and a half. I would drive and I would look and I would try to envision. And then any type of commercial land that was available, it ended up not being the right place or the right area. Finally, actually, I say I found this spot on my own. I didn't have a broker or anything at the time, but by word of mouth, someone said, I know of a piece of land that's going to be up for sale soon. It's not on the market yet. And it just happened to be right off of a highway exit that situated us 25 minutes from Richmond and 25 minutes from Charlottesville. And so it was easy to get to.
Yeah, perfect access.
There was nothing out there. But that's where we dug the shovel in, so to speak.
And what is the layout of the drive-in? I take it when you first got the idea, you were thinking of potentially an envision of a childhood drive-in, which single screen, 2 screens right out the gate?
Well, the dream was big, but the reality of the bank account was kind of, brings you down to earth. So,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So we said, let's start off with a single screen. We purchased 10 acres, so we thought there would be room to grow. But we were not developers. We had no idea really what we were getting into. And when you build a new drive-in, well, you've got the Department of Environmental Quality coming in. You've got to deal with the water people. We're on well and septic. There's a whole host. We had to make sure our drainage was done properly, and that we had a retention pond to catch any excess runoff. And it was daunting
and open.
Right.
It's not like you had an existing building that you went into and, hey, the plumbing's all there. I can work.
Right. It was not a fun process to build it or develop it. When everyone says, well, if you want to grow, you want to put yourself in strange situations and uncomfortable situations. And I can tell you, it was so hard, to say the least, and very stressful. And all these things would pop up that you did not budget for.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hey, we grew from that. And after it was all said and done, we had our drive-in and we got to open up, and the thrill of that was amazing and continues to be so. I mean, you guys see it. I know you have your regulars, as we do, and they have a love for the drive-in, and they're a little protective of it. And and then you also have your first-time folks come out, and just it's fun to watch the look on their faces, just to look around and kind of soak it all in. And there's such an authenticity with what you guys do and what we try to do, and a lot of the drive-in owners do, that you cannot find anywhere anymore. And I think, what are we down to? One Blockbuster left in the country, right? Out in Oregon. So there's a lot of that. And I hate to refer to Blockbuster like it's so old school, but I guess nowadays it would be considered that.
Certainly.
There's a lot of that old fashioned entertainment has just gone the wayside. We know the reasons why drive-ins went by the wayside, but thank God for all the folks that hung in there all those decades to keep theirs alive, to the folks that came back in, got things running again, like you guys did. It takes a certain type of dreamer. It takes a certain type of visionary to do that. And I think we all know, getting into this, as I learned getting into it, you're not going to become the next Elon Musk doing a driving, but what you are going to do is bring a lot of joy to people's lives. And it sounds corny, but to me, that was a big reason for doing this. I wanted to bring a little bit of whimsy. I wanted to bring a little bit of joy and a little bit of that throwback to modern audiences. So huge gamble, but so far so good.
And from my understanding, your opening day was a packed sellout, and you were well received right out the gate, no pun intended.
Well, I tell you, thank God for that. It was a little bit rainy that night, very stressful. I hardly remember it. And for some reason, I honestly, I don't think I had much sleep that week, but we were fighting to get the drive-in. You had to get the certificate of occupancy so you could get in the building and start, installing everything. Well, they gave us that the day before had announced to the world that we were opening.
Wow.
So we really didn't have anything down. We didn't know how to operate anything. And it was a whirlwind, to put it mildly, but the folks were very understanding. And, with each passing week, we started to get things down a little bit more. And we're 14 years into this thing, and we're still trying to get it down. There's always something that you can do.
Yeah.
Learn as you know
every day. And the industry, obviously, that's the big topic talking to owners now, is
the ability to pivot now that the industry, what is Hollywood? What is a release schedule? It's really crazy to see the landscape of not just drive-ins, but cinema in general,
right,
take that shift over and over again, even over 14 years.
Well, I think, we're definitely, I think I can safely say that all of us here are huge fans of drive-ins, but I would hasten to guess that we're all also fans of cinema. And, during the pandemic, when cinema, indoors were shut down and drive-ins were the only true entertainment left out there that could function, I would have so many people say, maybe you guys did too, hey, this is great for y'all. All the indoor theaters closed and it'll just be for drive-ins. I said, no. We need the indoors. We need indoors to stay open as much as drive-ins. And because there's not enough of us drive-ins to warrant throwing out these films that way. So
sure.
They don't pay attention to theater owners as a whole, let alone drive-in owners as a whole.
Well, isn't that the truth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the truth? I mean, it's a little nostalgic remnant of the past to a lot of people. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard, there's still drive-ins around.
Yeah.
Every time people think we're the only one, like we have a certain number of people that come. And I know they passed several drive-ins, and that was another big part of starting the podcast and shining the light is, if you are into what we do, this is something that every single community should have, like we used to. And those people that are still out there riding this dream and making magic happen under the stars, I'll say it. I mean, most of us fell in love with movies at a drive-in and got inspired to run a drive-in as a youngster. And the people who ran those drive-ins in our childhoods, they were the rock stars of the town. They were the dreamer, the deliverer of dreams, if you will. But did you have that as well? I mean, as far as the childhood experience?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm originally from Mississippi, and then we moved up to Virginia, and then I actually graduated high school. Fun fact for all you Pennsylvania folks: I graduated high school in Westchester, Pennsylvania.
What? That's not for me at all.
Yeah, I mean, just being a Southern kid in PA, how did that go down? It was actually a lot of fun, to be honest with you. I didn't know what a cheesesteak or a stromboli was or a pierogi. I had no idea until I moved to Pennsylvania. It was wonderful. But we had drive-ins in all those places. My earliest memories, gosh, I think my parents to see Fantasia, a re-release of Fantasia. I think it was at a drive-in, and Jaws. I remember. I mean, of course, Star Wars. What were the other ones? Escape to Witch Mountain. All those. Whatever came out.
Yeah.
But a drive-in. Yeah, my parents were young. They didn't have a lot of money, and drive-ins were a great option. And all through the '80s, went to them But they started getting, fewer and further apart. And until all of a sudden you come to the 90s and, wow, where are they all at? But, great drive-in memories, inspiring. The smells from the snack bar, they're all different. All drive-ins, as you know, they all have their own characteristic smells, their looks.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons I wanted to do this series on the show, was that every drive-in has its unique architecture, customs, food specials. And that's what we like to find out. And I will also say, when we talk about food in every one of these episodes, I don't usually eat dinner until after we record this. And by the time we're done talking about the snack bar, I'm almost on the floor. So I look forward to hearing
your
about
appetite. That's what I love about drive-ins. They are all different. There's no carbon copy. I mean, what do we have in common? We have a screen, we show movies, we have a snack bar, but there's a lot of variables in between that and around it. So that's what I love about it. And you don't know what to expect. You're going to see a movie, but you don't know, what is this going to be like? What's the parking situation going to be like? I love it. And I haven't been to a drive-in that I have not loved. And I'm talking about the ones that, are just, they're barely hanging on, but man, they've got, when that movie hits the screen, you hear that sound coming out of the speaker, if they still have the speaker. I mean, I love that. And, we're 14 years into this with the Goochland, but, I still feel like I'm not figuring it out yet. I feel like there's so much more I could be doing, or so much more to learn. And I think that's what keeps me going, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, we got to pay our bills and all that good stuff, but the component of just, seeing how far we can take this thing. And, what I like about the fact is that, people for the last 14 years, kids growing up around here within an hour or 2 hour drive, think that a drive-in is just a normal thing, because for them, it's here. They've grown up with it. It is.
Yep. And
they can drive 2 or 3 hours away. There may not be a drive-in. Most places, there's no drive-ins. Where you guys are at, I know you draw from a wide area. But for your locals, I mean, those kids, those families, it's a normal thing having a drive-in. And that's what I dig about it. They used to be ubiquitous, and now they're not so ubiquitous. I think that's what makes us pretty special, all of us. And I'm glad to be a part of the industry, the family. I take a lot of pride in it, and I'm protective of it. And I try to be an ambassador for drive-ins. I always encourage our guests. I was like, check out the other drive-ins out there. Take a road trip sometime.
Yeah.
And let's support these guys and gals.
That's the mission, with our whole entire industry
shrinking down to the size that it is. It's so strange to see Hollywood totally shift into a retro mentality where everything is nostalgia based. Everything is geared toward this feeling of nostalgia. And the drive-in and the drive-in owners now, they have that built into their business. And
so true.
Everybody
exactly
who opens a business, like, you can't pay for that type of appeal and nostalgic appeal. As soon as you say drive-in to somebody, they light up. It's really a magical thing that you can't describe.
Well, it is magical, and I've used that term before, and folks will look at you a little funny sometimes, but I said it's really something you have to experience. And I mean, yeah, we show a lot of cool movies. You guys show a lot of cool movies that you can't see anywhere else, as you know. But and people, they're coming for the movies, but they're coming for the experience. And I remember as a kid, we would go to a drive-in. They check the paper, see what's playing. If it's something, fairly decent, nothing we really wanted to see, we'd still go, because just to be out there and just it's relaxing. You're unplugged from the world.
Yep.
And that's what we find, that people really seem to enjoy that. Now, we do have every other week or so, someone will ask, what's your Wi-Fi password? And we're like, we don't have Wi-Fi.
So, what world are you in, sir?
Right, come on. Go up there and get some popcorn. But, I said, we just want you to unplug when you're out here, So
it's like a safe little bubble,
Your setup is similar to ours in that you're fully surrounded by the trees, and when you're there, it's you don't know what world is beyond those trees.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it. You're so right. I've stumbled upon your drive-in. I like a lot of old classic cars and some not so classic cars, but I was driving up there. I had an old Escort GT from the 80s, and I was trying to restore it.
Yeah.
Don't make fun of me, but I was. And I drove up there, and I passed by, and I saw Mahoning Drive-In. This was a few years ago. And so I drove up in there, and it was dead of winter, but I did kind of take a peek real quick, and I just felt really good about it. And another fun fact, our operations manager, Adam, who's an incredible guy, he's born and raised not too far from you guys, in Shenandoah, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yes. He's been down in Virginia about 10 or 12 years now, but he came to work for us, 7 years ago. just as a part-time thing, and has really turned into not just a great asset and a co-worker. He's become a trusted friend. And but yeah, it's good people in PA, man. Good people in PA.
The connections, it's
a small world. The world's getting smaller.
Well, before we get to your amazing team, which, we're in the same boat, we're nothing without our incredible crew who really makes the magic happen every single night. I see now that you guys have 2 screens. So at what point did you make the decision to say, hey, I'm gonna double down?
Well, I guess, it was a matter of how will we put it in there? Because we had taken up most of our usable land with the single screen at the time, but I always had this kind of an idea, what could we do? I'd been to some other drive-ins that had really teeny tiny second screens.
Yeah.
And I wondered how the audio would work, when you have one car on this lane listening to this movie and the other car 10 feet away listening to another movie. I wondered about the bleed over of audio and what the experience would be like. So I played around with the ideas. I sketched a lot of things down for years and years and just could not come up with anything. We didn't have the space to have 2 legitimate, not even similar size screens, but even a screen that was, an area. So I came up with this idea. What if we have a small area to park to watch traditionally from your car if you want to, and then an area out in front of that that would be a manicured lawn with in-ground speakers. People could park nearby, walk up with their chairs or blankets, sit out on the lawn, and in-ground speakers would take care of the sound for them.
Ooh.
And it was an idea I had. I didn't know if it would work, but we started building that in 2017 and opened it in 2018. And so far, so good with that. We call it the Grove. And the people that know the Grove and been to the Grove there at the Goochland Drive-In, they love it. And they prefer to just bring their chairs and sit out on the lawn and watch the movies that way. But
you got your Grove audience and your traditional, main screen audience.
Main screen audience. So, and it, what was the benefit of the second screen? Even though you could only maybe fit between the Grove section and the car section, maybe 85 cars. The benefit was because if you sign up for a new movie the week before that was a dud, you could push it to the smaller screen, of course. And you could bring in that next movie. But what it also did was allowed us to get, I'm sorry?
You're a smart man. I was thinking that as you said it is, you get to play on the second screen,
Right. You have the ability to really spread your booking prowess, if you will.
Well, that's an art form I'm still trying to figure out. But you're right. As far as, your selection, and it allowed us to get a little more creative. Movies that we wouldn't have been able to, that we knew were going to be smaller type movies, we would not have been able to afford taking up one main screen for an entire weekend or 2 weekends, with 35, 40 cars showing up. But we could show it at the Grove and have an enthusiastic fans show up for that, particular movie. So it allowed us to get a little more creative than just showing the superhero movie and the Disney animated movies and the Pixar and that kind of thing. So we were able to get into more drama, some more artsy stuff, maybe some more edgy horror, even some faith-based movies that there's a market for, but we couldn't take up our whole screen to do. So, but so far it's worked out pretty cool.
Such a cool idea. I mean, it's inspiring. I love this series with owners, because every single conversation that we have, like we all do the same thing, like you said, same setup, same grind throughout the year, but it's finding those little things that work for you. And that's a great one. Now tell me about numbers. How many people does the Grove hold versus the main screen?
The Grove, we've had as many as the equivalent of like 110 cars up there, but that's with about 30, 35 cars in the what we call the car viewing spaces, which gives you that traditional experience at the Grove. And then the balance being where we have reserved parking for the folks that park nearby and just walk and sit in the lawn. And over at the main screen, we can fit probably 400 up there, but we tend to keep it, somewhere around 300, 325.
Keep it comfortable.
We do. When you get those sellout nights, which we all love, I had a wise gentleman tell me, who was just a sage in the drive-in world. And I'm like, man, I want to sell out every night. He says, I don't know if you do. He goes, it gets to be a little nerve wracking. You're really pushing your resources.
Oh, yes.
And he, and you guys know what I'm talking about when it's a stressful thing. And
you figure out what your limit is. So that's the way we kind of played it. Is we oversold and really said like, look, let's never do that again. Let's take it back. and I'm sure that's the case with you, being that you really were figuring it out as you go.
Up until about 2019, we did it the old-fashioned way. You bought your ticket at the ticket booth as you drove in.
Yep.
And then in 2020, and even then, when you have a big block, I mean, our biggest movie ever was It when it came out. It was unbelievable. And horror movies and rated R movies don't always do so well at the Goochland. But It was incredible on so many levels. We had folks lining up 4 hours early to get in. And so we were supposed to open the gates at like 5 or 5:30. By 4 o'clock, we were sold out. So we started putting, on our Facebook page, we started doing parking updates. Hey, folks, be sure, we're at 50% capacity, we're at 60% capacity. And a lot of folks would look at that. We'd always remind folks to look at those updates. Yeah. But inevitably, on a big night, premiere weekend, for Avengers or whatever it would be, you've got, you're down, they're like, parking crews radioing and say, hey, we have 10 more spaces.
You're like, time to break some hearts at the gate.
Oh, yeah. The last 10 people coming in, you're the greatest person.
Oh, yes.
Those 20 or 30 are waiting on the main road. Oh, yeah. You get yelled at and all kinds of fun little words, but they hate you. Yeah. I got tired of that, of course. I never would let the staff deal with that. I always would walk up there to deal with it because I didn't want them to have to get berated like that.
Take the heat, yeah.
Exactly. So 2020 comes along and I'm like, we'll do online ticketing, right? We're going to make it touch free. That's the big thing. Everything's touchless.
Yeah.
So we started doing the online ticketing and it was so well received by everyone. It allowed us, on one hand, we could limit the number of tickets so that we could control our spaces.
Yeah.
Which we had to do in 2020. But the customers loved it because they knew they weren't going to drive 30, 45 minutes and get there to find it sold out on a big night. So we kept it. We kept the touchless buy in advance ticketing, and it's worked out so well. This will be our 4th year doing it. So yeah, it's worked out. You mentioned earlier about that trick of the nostalgia with the modern, and folks, they want that nostalgic feel that when they come to a drive-in, but modern audiences expect modern sound, modern pictures, modern conveniences. Once in a while we get complaints that we don't have an ATM machine, but those complaints are starting to go away because everyone's paying with debit card, it seems like nowadays anyhow, or Apple Pay or whatever it may be. But we've tried to adapt in those ways to take those alternative payments. We still take cash, but fewer and fewer folks are using that with us. We still don't have Wi-Fi. We still won't have Wi-Fi next year or the year after that. We are going to keep that in place.
Baby. Unplug.
Yes. #unplug, right?
That's right.
But I have so many questions for you guys too. I remember I knew about you and everything. Then I stumbled on the documentary and I was just enthralled with it. And I love the creativity, the fly-by-wire kind of thing, which we do on some nights too. There's no doubt about it. And I think every drive-in does. The show must go on and you guys make the show go on. And you guys got so creative in doing that to get that picture bright on the screen. And it just, it was so inspiring. And I could feel the tension, like I was sitting there with y'all the night y'all had to do all these things. And it just, it resonated so much with me. And it made me proud, man. Just to see that, just that kind of the love and just the characters, not just at work there, but that show up there and everything. And it's such a unique thing y'all have going. Unbelievable.
It's nearly impossible to catch and like you said, even describe the experience of the drive-in. And when Al was following us around for a year, I kept thinking like, what is this going to be? Like some of this is so mundane, but he found the drama and the magic of at the time, even we didn't know that we were spinning. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. Like Mark said, to have such a calling card, constantly coming around and saying, I just discovered you on this random streaming site, you know?
It was so good. And I think they did a great job with it. And just the way it, could they capture everything? I don't know, but I surely got a great representation. Anybody that watches it, you can't help but want to visit the Mahoning Drive-In. You can't help but want to be a part of that.
It's inspiring. I mean, that's more
right.
than anything, you know it from watching the documentary. I've been talking about running a drive-in forever, my whole childhood practically. And the fact that it inspires people, and the story now inspires people the same way that the Bucks County Twin inspired me when I was a kid and turned my life on its heels. It's such a gift and such a mind blower that,
right.
It's become what it's become. And we know how hard it is. We see the drive-ins close every other week, practically, it feels like. And, to find that magic, and more than that, the people that are willing to spin that magic is really difficult. And you talked about your team, and we want to talk about the appeal of the drive-in, the concession stand, and the food. What's your layout like there? What's your breakdown as far as the team? You got somebody running the stand for you?
We've always been fortunate enough to have a great team, but it's kind of a rolling team, because people come and go. But our average employee stays about 4.5 years. We'll get them in high school. They'll stay with us through college. We've had employees last as long as 13 years with us.
It's hard to leave, It's hard to leave.
It's, these were adults that had normal jobs. A lot of them, they were still working with us on the evenings and weekends. And I don't know how they did it for so long. They are totally missed, but, I understand that all good things must come to an end. But we've also had benefited from, a kid that starts with us at 16, first job, a little bit shy, but we kind of, look, the best thing I can tell a young employee, maybe a little nervous, this is not rocket science. If you smile at the customer, make sure you smile always. Never turn your back to the customer. We don't want any of our staff to be leaning up against, the snack bar there when a customer walks up and their back is to them. We don't want that. We're going to be facing forward. We're going to have a smile. We're not going to be too chatty, but we're going to be welcoming, and we're going to be helpful. And if you're going to give the customer what they need, how they want it. Some customers hey, I don't want any ice. Some customers want it topped off with whatever they want. If we can do it, the rule of thumb is, if it benefits a customer and it's mutually beneficial for the business, let's do it. And so far that's worked out really well. And, complaints, I guess we all have them on some level, but most complaints are pretty genuine. And if they see that you're making a genuine effort to correct it, most folks appreciate that. And, they come back for the service. I would hasten to guess it's the same at your drive-in. The customers, they see that you're making an effort. You're doing whatever is possible to make sure they have a great time. And we do the same thing. Our snack bar is very small, very small. And again, it's a snack bar, the restrooms on either side, projection room upstairs. And it's a small footprint because at the time, that's what the budget mandated.
Yep.
And so on a busy night, you're cranking out food and you're humping, trying to get orders out. It's become almost organized chaos, and how folks will just kind of slipstream past each other. If you've ever seen ants go back and forth and they're all traveling on a little branch or something like that, that's almost the way it is. We never seem to bump into each other. We just always move around. And
that's incredible.
The kids,
do you guys have like a corral system to work lines? Do you have multiple registers, stop and serve type of a situation?
Yes. I'll try to be as succinct as I can about that. So we started off with, we have 4 serving quote serving windows.
Yes.
And it was originally walk-up style.
Ooh, okay.
Folks get they walk up to it just like a snack bar, a concession stand at a high school. And the menus are above each one, and you would look up, say, give me that, give me that. They bring up the order, and they go what we call run. They go run and put the order together, hand it to them along with the sack to throw their trash out. And that would be the thing. And our lines have always moved pretty fast, but on the busy nights, as you know, the lines can get pretty long. And when lines get long, no one likes to wait too long. I've heard a lot of drive-in owners say, man, the lines were so long tonight. They were long all the way through the intermission. And I know that translates into sales dollars, but on the flip side of that, it translates into mom or dad had to wait in that line the whole time while the rest of the family was watching the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It always irked me. So I had this idea for a while, and I just didn't know how to implement it. So last year, we put in outdoor kiosks. It's kind of a line guided system, corral system. They walk up to a kiosk, place their order, grab their ticket, walk through the corral up to the service window. By that point, the payment is already done. And all our staff can do at that point is run and put the order together really quickly. Nice. And it's strangely enough, it's shaved off about 50%, I don't know, 40 to 50% faster to get those lines down. So when the movie starts, our lines are down to maybe 1 or 2 people.
Always thinking, man. Always thinking.
Well, you hope. There's a lot of hope in that thinking. You hope these things will work because, right. We're a drive-in. We don't have limitless pockets. And so when we invest in something, we really want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a wise decision.
Right. Yeah. And you hope.
What's popular for you guys? What's the banger sellers? What do people come? I did hear that you guys have some specialty Gooch themed items.
So the hamburgers, the barbecue, they don't get the press. What gets the press at the drive-in is the Gooch dog.
The Gooch dog. That's Gooch it. Dog. It's legend. So, it's reached me.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I'm glad to hear it. It's my wife's creation. And so this all goes out to Christina. She's the one that invented it. She's like, we've got to have some kind of signature dish. And I'm like, well, look, we can't have too many different items. It's a drive-in. You got, 2 hours to feed everybody. She goes, you got to have a signature dish. So she came up with the Gooch dog, and that's an all beef hot dog topped with a special mac and cheese, and then drizzled with a top secret sauce. And it's so good. It
you drooling, Mark?
That part where I said at this point in the show I get really hungry.
Yeah.
I'm really hungry.
There you go. But we give you a spoon because it can be a little messy. So, but that's our biggest seller. There you go. So yeah, I mean, people, that's what they seem to dig. I guess, when you go to a certain restaurant or a certain place, hey, we got to try this when we're here. So that's what they do. They all come and they'll try the Gooch dog. Everybody likes it or loves it. Nobody hates it. So we crank out the Gooch dogs every night. No doubt about it.
That is fantastic. I love that so much. Well, it sounds like business is going really, really well for you guys. You've really lucked out having the community embrace you. I mean, now that you have the mic, are there any kind of choice moments, memories, hurdles being a drive-in owner that you had to overcome that you think the listeners might find intriguing?
Well, I think that's, the lifestyle change, more so than anything, especially in the first few years. You get invited to the summer parties or the cookouts and things like that, which always seem to happen
weekends.
Right. Yeah, right. What's that weekend, right? So, that's been a big adjustment to, after a while you stop getting invited because you can't ever come. But it's gotten a little better in the last couple of years, I suppose. But, the lifestyle of it. But, on the flip side of that, we all have off a few months a year, at least in some regard. And then we never have to fight traffic to get to work. Monday mornings are not the pariah that they are for most people because we're usually still asleep or something. But, so we're not out there in the grind.
Well, that's a good I mean, you guys, are you open seasonally? I take it.
We are. I don't think folks would come. We have tried some wintertime, specials and things like that. But typically, spring to fall seems to work best for us.
And just weekends or choice days and weekends?
We start out weekends, finish up weekends. Summertime, we'll open up multiple nights, 4 to 7 nights a week, depending on, what the draw of the movie, if the movie has a big draw, and those movies that have big draws are fewer and farther between. So we want to capitalize on that as much as we can. But, the summertime when the kids are out, we try to, stay open at least 4 or 5 days a week.
I always like to ask now the cinematic landscape around you. I mean, obviously, we love to know whether you're built up rural or in a, situation like that. Are there other theaters around you, indoor drive-ins? Do you have kind of a circuit? Because I know that having that little cinematic community around you can help.
No circuit. There is, the Regal Indoor Cinemas are about 30 minutes away from us. And strange enough, with the exception of a couple of other drive-in owners and my booking agent, I really don't talk to too many other people these days in the drive-in industry. And that's something I've been working to change, because I really enjoy the camaraderie, and I really enjoy just, swapping stories and hear about everybody's experience like you guys do. So that's why right now it's such a treat for me. But, at times you feel like
you're out on an island.
Yep. Or out in the middle of the ocean on a dinghy,
That's
even
right.
worse. But, I've heard people say, well, John, it's lonely at the top. I said, I'm not at the top of anything. I'm just trying to, sell popcorn and sell tickets and bring a little joy and whimsy to folks' lives, And there's no one to rely on locally, for us at least, that if there's an issue or a problem.
Not like you have a small indoor down the road where you can say, hey, I didn't get my DCP or whatever.
That has happened a few times, but fortunately, we've always worked that out. But it's been so rare, but thank goodness. But I'll tell you, we started out doing 35 millimeter in 2009 and ran it through 2012. We were 35 millimeter. I feel like a badge of honor with that, because I got to experience what it was like to, splice film and to
that
hear
is incredible.
Just to hear that.
What was that now? I gotta know, what was that like, finding and installing 35 millimeter in 2009?
Well, I tell you, I have no idea. It was all fresh to me. The projection system had been refurbished and, repowder coated and that and whatnot, but it looked old. There's no other way to say it. And I had the platter system, and I had to learn how to splice film and, make sure as you guys know, make sure that you put the audio strip on the right side and all that good stuff. And I only had one problem though. Well, I always had film break. We all have that, and platter issues, but we never lost the show. But yeah, I'm glad I got to do it. I miss it, to some degree. It whenever you want to change up the order of the films for the next night, that always presented a little bit of an issue. You had to think ahead for that. As you know, I miss it. I had the system dismantled when we got our digital projector in 2013, and I kept it in my garage, climate controlled garage, for 8 years. And I couldn't give it away. Nobody wanted it. And eventually we just had to, just kind of do away with it, which made me sad. I didn't have the room to keep it. But I could not give that system away. I should have called you guys. But
we wouldn't have wanted it either, unfortunately. We've got our own old problems. although we still have our original projectors from 1949, and they're reel-to-reel changeover. Yeah, that's right. You've probably seen them. But we kind of enjoy keeping those alive. But I feel for you, because anytime that I've had to throw away an old piece of projection equipment, especially 35 millimeter, or I still have the platter in storage. Right. We had a platter at one time, and then we put the other machine back in again. But I still have the platter, and I don't want to throw it out but you're right. Nobody's ever going to want it.
Yeah. It's my wife calls me somewhat of a pack rat. I like old things. I like things of when I grew up, that era, right. The first thing I ever bought off eBay, like 20 some years ago, was a $6 million man, still in the box, never played with. And I paid $100 for it. And she goes, "Are you nuts? What are you doing?" I said, "You understand, this was $1 million man. It's never been played with." And she didn't get it, but she kind of has always been supportive of kind of all that stuff. But with that projection system, it came to a point for us. We had to let it go. It was sad. Yeah. No one would take it, but yeah, I have a love for a lot of nostalgia and a love for old things. I try to find things that mean something to me. Collectors are all that way, I suppose, but the drive-in just kind of falls in with, my whole retro mentality.
It keeps you young, my friend. It keeps
you. I'd like to think it keeps me young. I keep looking at the mirror though, and it's a different story, brother.
Those lines are still coming in. Yeah, I feel you.
I look in the mirror a lot, and I look and I say, that can't be right.
Is this thing broken? What's going on?
It's right.
It's defective mirror.
This thing's lying. I don't know. Yeah, I dig what you guys do, and I did. The passion. It's just.
It's the most important part, and that's the thing we love about you too is, anybody that is willing to take that jump and got embraced the way that you have been embraced it's the dream. It really is. I had no idea how my dream was ever going to become a reality. And it's not like you said, there's any plan to go about it. And sometimes you just have to walk out on that plank and hope that people are going to get behind you. And you're really, really lucky that that's the case. I think the story, as much as ours is inspiring, yours will certainly cross over with that.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly, and your story's different than mine, but the way they dovetail is the fact that there was this love for drive-ins, and
right.
I didn't know anything about drive-ins really. I liked them, and we did some research, but there was this whole thing, and I don't know if you guys ever had this thought or this feeling, but there's even to some degree today, I'm like, man, people are going to find out that I don't know what the heck I'm doing, that I've just been faking it this whole time. And yeah, and it's true. But at the same time, I'm sure you guys are looked at as the experts on drive-ins, and we'll get folks that want to do articles or ask a question about cinema or something like that because they look at us as quote the experts on it. And I guess we are, because there's no one else around. But I just feel like there's so much more to learn. There's so much more to improve on without changing the culture of it, without changing the experience of it. And that's something we try to do here, is just to try to make it could be something simple that the customer never sees and may not even notice, but you know what? Their experience is going to be improved by it. I find that, the creativity part, as you guys know, when you don't have deep pockets and a lot of employees, when you own a business, you've got to get creative, and being creative sometimes can be the better option. And for us, a lot of the time, it was the only option. We had to get creative on things.
Yep.
And be very selective as to what we were going to invest in or add to the business, and to make it what we wanted it to be for folks. So the fact that they're still coming out and we're getting new faces coming out, I'm encouraged about it. Not just this drive-in, but your drive-in, all the drive-ins.
We're carving out something special for the future. It's like you said, those drive-ins that inspired us as kids. Hopefully we're passing a piece of that on to the next generation.
Right.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I know that there's going to be young people out there that have come to your drive-in, come to these drive-ins and say, hey, this is kind of a cool deal. I want to be a part of this. And one day we'll be considered the OGs, of drive-ins, and hopefully there'll be a new team of folks taking them over. Yeah, new batch, right? We'll pass the baton.
I already am the OG.
I love it. We're gonna get a license plate made.
OG, the OG. I don't know. I'm encouraged about cinema, y'all. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like it's going through not just a change, but some bumps in the road. Some were out of everybody's hands, of course, with the pandemic and whatnot. But new technology is going to do its thing with the streaming and whatnot. But again, I think it comes back to the experience of going out, especially at a drive-in. I mean, where else are you going to get that? I mean, an authentic experience where you can go out with your date, your family, your friends,
put your phone
be under the stars.
Yep. Live in the world. What a weird concept that is.
Yeah, right. Right. I mean, I don't know if you guys see this, but everywhere you go today, everybody's got their heads down and they're staring at their phone. And at the drive-in, we see less of that because people are actually interacting and they're talking. Yeah, they're reaching over and they're trying, what that person has, and vice versa. And they're throwing frisbees and they're hanging out and they're just laughing and they're having a great time. And this is before the movie starts.
Yeah, it's one of the last beacons of a community space, and we said it on the podcast over and over again. What experience can you pay for
and leave before the movie even starts and still gotten your money's worth. It's crazy, you know.
I don't know where else could you do that. Right, you're exactly right. We're not high tech. You know, we're far from high tech. We've got some technology, you know, built in to function, but you know, it's not a high tech place.
It's a screen, it's a building, it's a field.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, drive your 4-wheel vehicle in now. So I mean, it's just it's a cool thing. And I mean, what's the number on drive-ins nowadays? Do y'all know the exact number? What it's down to?
It always lingers right around 300.
Right.
It's a little bit hot, slightly higher. It's about 318. About 318.
318. Yeah, I think when I started this, there were 380, 350, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe more.
A few years ago,
Yeah. But you know, like you mentioned earlier, there, you know, every other week you see somebody, you know, just saying that's it for us. You know, we're gonna turn the projector off.
It's tough. There's a lot of elements that go into it. You know, as we're finding talking to these owners, is nobody wants to give up their business. Nobody wants to, you know, let go of their dream in a sense, but they're also realists about their lives and spending that time the rest of their life. You know, I never go the route of, how dare they, you know, like they're giving up this could be preserved. I mean, there's so many different elements and actions that go into decision making, and especially with something this big.
And that's such a fair statement. I mean, that's an honest, fair statement about if someone, and I've seen some people take some heat for selling out to a developer or something like that. And I'm a purist in a lot of ways, but like you said, their situation can be different. They've worked for forever, and they have a chance to retire with some dignity and maybe have some money in the bank. You know, you can't begrudge somebody for that, I don't think. But then, you know, not everybody has an adult child that's willing to take it over, or has somebody in the community willing to buy it. You know, I do hate when people lament, you know, don't sell it. But then there's stories out there that, you know, where no one steps up to buy it. You know,
on the market for years, you know,
right? Exactly.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, and they're 88 and they've been working this thing since they were 22. You know, they've done their time, and they've offered a great, you know, asset to the community for over half a century. So I don't begrudge anybody.
No.
Whatever anybody wants to do, I'm totally cool with that. You know, it's but I do love seeing drive-ins, you know, stay on with another owner or something like that as much as possible. But I don't begrudge anybody.
I mean, it's a small group that we're in,
but I feel like we all inspire each other. We all can create this strange circuit, you know, being that we are a small group. If we support each other, we put the word out and try to spread the word. It could be another person who had no idea that the Mahoning or the Gooch ever. I want to ask, does anybody else call it the Gooch, or are we the only one?
You know, apparently that's a slang term for something.
I see. Oh, is that not? It's like you.
Well,
dirty
you know,
rat.
I think it's a regional thing, to be honest with you. But we had no idea. So Goochland County was founded after William Gooch, who, if you go back to the 1700s, he was somebody, you know.
Gooch,
you know, as a lot of those, you know, nobles and things like that, and wealthy or, you know, statesmen, they would have, you know, cities and towns and counties named after them. And so Goochland County. So it's situated, you know, right outside between Richmond and Charlottesville, almost a suburb in some way, but they've wanted to maintain and done a pretty firm job of keeping it rural. So as a result, there's not a lot of business in Goochland County. Very tough to open and start a business. At least it was when we tried, I can tell you that. But
well, even though it's slang, I mean, are you okay if we call it the Gooch?
I am not offended at all. You know,
I mean, you have the Gooch dog, so you've embraced.
Yeah, right. So I can't run away from it. So you just got to embrace. You got to embrace it. So,
I just looked up online what Gooch might also mean.
Oh, here we go.
And I'll be referring to it as the Goochland Drive-In Theater.
Amazing.
Out of respect.
We'll accept that too. So
that's right.
It's, you know, the GDIT that
got a nice ring.
Really does.
Well, it came about just because Goochland Drive-In Theater was so many syllables, and we never changed our website or emails. It's GoochlandDrive-In-Theater.com. We never shortened that. We never shortened it, and I'm not the greatest typist, but
there's a lot that could go wrong.
Oh,
it's the exact same thing for us. Mahoning
email
Theater at gmail.com. Your fingers cramp up by the time you get to the end of that.
Mahoning, baby. And there's only one.
That's right.
So, there's only one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the brand, just to touch on that too. We've tried to be as business oriented as we can, work on the branding, keep the logo, what it is. And you guys are great about that. I think your brand, there's no other drive-in out there like it. And I think that it makes you guys so special in so many ways. And I hope to see that continue. But I'm also excited to see, what other, kind of festivals and things you guys come up with and just events. Now you talk about inspiring. I mean, some of that stuff you guys do, I'm like, I don't think that would ever work here. But you guys do it and it works. And you have I think it's amazing. Who's the one that kind of wanted to say, let's try to do this. Let's work with what we got. We're going to get these films, 35 millimeter. Was it out of necessity because that's all you guys?
Well, yeah. It kind of was, because I wasn't going to remove the original equipment. There was no way I was taking that out. I wasn't going to gut that booth and ruin it for any reason whatsoever. So we were kind of forced into retro. But what I love is that Virgil and Mark are so creative with that. Virgil is my film agent. He's also my partner. He gets the films and he's very creative. And Mark will come in with stuff every now and then, and he's very creative. And I'm lucky to have these two guys around me because I'm very old school. I know how to run drive-in theaters, but I don't know modern platforms. I don't know the TikTok and the Instagram and the Facebook and I don't really care. That's what these guys do. These guys are excellent at it. So I let them off the chain and I let them do it. And I concentrate on being in the booth and making sure everything is running right. And so that I got to give credit to Virgil and Mark. I mean, they're very creative, very creative.
I mean, it's any well-running machine has, important parts, and you guys all work together to make it happen. That's hard to find. It really is. And to keep it going, and just it's really inspiring. That is
thank you.
I dig what you guys do
for sure. But it's if we stick to our guns and listen to our hearts, you really can't go wrong. That's what we find is once the audience took us into their hearts, half the work was done. I don't know if you noticed this, but I guess you wouldn't tell either way. But the trash situation, like when we first started running retro and we weren't the Mahoning, people would come and leave their trash and roll out. Now we have patrons every morning picking up trash because they love the place. And it's like, there's a respect level, I think, that you can't pay for, People wouldn't think of leaving a cup on the lawn. They don't want the neighbor to be like, hey, don't you realize how special this place is?
Well, I totally know what you're saying. They're protective of the place.
Yep.
And you've built on that, because what happens is, and we've seen it here too, they see the love and the passion and the work and the genuineness, or the authenticity, I guess I'm going to say, that you guys put in it. So that starts to resonate. So what you've done and what you've built, it's going to draw people that are fans of drive-ins and of some of the horror movies and all these really cool cult movies and B movies. And, they're protective of the place. They want to see it succeed. They want to see it open again and again and again for years to come. So I find that, and we've seen that too here, because in the beginning, I think people thought, hey, it's a free-for-all. It's a drive-in. Even those that never went to a drive-in thought, they just heard the typical stories of them being passion pits and you could just go and hang out and do anything.
Party out, bring your date.
Yeah, let's just do whatever. And so we didn't have much of it, but we had a little bit of the riffraff. And what we found is our reputation of kind of, hey, this is what the place is, guys. We're trying to keep it cool for everybody. It kind of weeds that out. And it sounds like that's what's happened now with, people being, as you say, more respectful and not leaving trash and things like that. And yeah, I don't know any other business where people are protective of it, have such a vested interest in it.
Theaters, that's for sure.
It's night and day, you know?
Right. It is night and day. I went to an indoor yesterday, and I still go to the indoors, and I want to support them and see movies and things like that. I enjoy it. But I find that the employees could not care less what your experience is like. They could not care less if you're there or not.
The less FaceTime they can give you, the better. I've worked for the biggest chains in the world, and yeah, the hiring process is turnaround city, and it's pretty much rent a seat. You know, the appeal is how great is that recliner? You know, it's like they could care less like who they're going to talk to on the way to the theater or even after the theater if there's going to be any communal experience tied in. It's like, oh, does that seat recline? What's my eye vision line going to be like?
That's it, right? Yeah. Does this have an ottoman that pops out? I mean, I know exactly, and that's what they worked on, you know, to be competitive and to give that kind of an next level experience, right? But what you said, the hiring, isn't that the first line of defense? I mean,
100%.
Those are your ambassadors working those ticket booths or whatever they do now. They're working on the snack bar.
Yeah, nothing without that strong crew behind you. If we didn't have those passionate people that raised the bar every single night and gave that experience to every single customer that came in, that reputation would go away real fast.
Big time. Well, you guys do it well.
Oh, well, I was going to say, before we let you go, Jeff mentioned the socials, and it's all a game now. You have to have it. So while we're talking about it, why don't you tell the people how they can follow you, how they can find a way to get to you, all that good stuff.
Well, I appreciate the mention there. GoochlandDriveInTheater.com. That's theater with an ER.com.
Yeah.
And also
right.
our
ER, baby.
some people go RE, but if you Google Goochland Drive-In, you'll get us. If you just Google Goochland, you'll find us too. As far as social media, we stick with Facebook. We're getting into Instagram here very, very soon. We're way late on that. We did try Twitter years ago, but just didn't seem to do well for us.
Certain things stick, you know. You have to play the game. We're talking to owners who have their concession crew doing TikToks for them, so you have to play the game somehow, you know.
Yeah, we've been. My kids have been telling me to do TikToks and things like that for a couple of years now.
Come on, Dad, get with the times.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it'll be something new tomorrow. So
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, what's going to be the next greatest thing? But obviously, the goal is to get the word out about the place, build a quote following, and because what is it? It's the greatest. It's word of mouth advertising. You know, social media is word of mouth advertising. It's powerful. It's fast. It's far reaching. And it's a lot more effective than printing out flyers and then going and trying to distribute them around.
We always say everything we have is because a friend told a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And there is a level of, I don't know what the word is, a true nature to that. It's like when a friend would hand you a record or, pass on a movie and say, you got to see this. Right. It means something when it comes from somebody that you care about.
It's it's instant credibility, and then it's also hopefully some curiosity, and like, I'm going to go check out the Mahoning. Yeah, this sounds pretty cool. What's the website? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And social media is a double-edged sword, as we all know. That's the modern internet, of course, but we've been pretty fortunate that as you guys are, that the fans are pretty, they're passionate about it, they're protective of it, and they're sharing those posts. They're bringing out friends. The friends come and they're like, wow, I didn't know what to expect. 2 or 3 weeks later, you see that the friends with their family coming out now, or their other friends. And I don't see many other businesses where that may happen at. Maybe some bars and restaurants, of course, but in terms of entertainment, affordable entertainment, I think nothing equals a drive-in theater. I don't, and if there is something out there, that I'm missing, then I'll admit to it. But I just think what drive-ins are, the people behind them, the drive-in, people who run drive-ins are characters, and a lot of the customers are characters, and it's all, and we're all here because we want to be, right? We're not here necessarily for the money.
No.
If you're working, and I wanted a business where, customers, a lot of business, especially if it's service oriented, if they may try you once and they didn't like it, they're not ever going to use you again. What's great about a drive-in? Hey, you didn't like the movie? Hey, it's okay. Next weekend, there's going to be a totally different lineup. So, things change like that. So that's what's nice about it. And people can come back. Hey, I didn't care for that movie too much, but I see you're playing this next week. I'm going to come back for that. As long as you keep the service top notch, that's you got to do that. Keep the food consistent. Keep it good. Our food is not gourmet food. It's not, and we'll admit to it. But you know what? It's pretty good drive-in food, and people seem to really enjoy it. So we're going to do that. We're going to, we're not going to try to venture out and do anything too crazy.
Well, before I let you go, I want to have give the guys an opportunity to ask any questions that might be burning on their minds.
My only question is, do you have anything you do during the day to utilize the lot? Some people do flea markets, they do car shows, they do pony rides, whatever. I just didn't know if that was anything that you guys have ever explored.
We dabbled in the flea market thing some years ago. It didn't go too well for us because it rained every time we tried. So that, we said, all right, we'll try it again next year. We just never have. We've had some cruise-ins and some car shows there. But to your point, I don't think we've maximized it like we could. That land sits there during the day. It's not producing any income. And that's a shame. And we've thought about different things to do. Should we keep the snack bar open? We're right off the highway. There's not a lot around us. Maybe you could get some travelers want to come in and stretch their legs, use a restroom, order something from the snack bar, have lunch, relax, let the kids play on the playground, and then hit the road again. That was the kind of an idea, but we never implemented that. I would love to see something done like that. But when you work till 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, you're not thinking about opening back up at 7 or 8 in the morning, for something. At least I'm not. But so I've kept the drive-in basically just a drive-in, evenings, nights. It's really nice, when in the fall, when the times you can start the movies earlier. That's always a bonus. I think everybody always seems to enjoy that.
I look forward to it every year.
Every year, right? We had a Christmas show early December, and our record is I think the movie hit the screen at 10 after 5 on one of those shows.
Oh, yeah. What a dream.
It's unbelievable. And, in a double feature, it's all done by 8:30. I mean, that doesn't always happen, right? But so, with all that talk about doing away with daylight savings time, which way if that does happen, you guys know which way they're talking about going, keeping it an hour ahead or keeping it an hour back?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Hopefully it'll be to our benefit.
Well, that's I know,
need
right?
Utah to step in and lobby hard.
Yes. Yeah, let's lobby hard, Utah.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's all a juggle, but as our listeners can hear, and once they check you out, they can see there's a lot to love about the Goochland Drive-In. And your story, my friend, is so inspiring, and I just know that it's going to be well received. Anybody who calls himself the chief executive dreamer is my type of dude, without a doubt.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. It's a self-appointed title, but I thought it fit, properly. I didn't see any other title that would really work better for me. I dream really well.
That works, man.
And I think all of us do. And so I'm like, all right, at this place, I'll be the chief one. So. But it's been a group effort. My wife has been very supportive. My kids now help me out, at the drive-in, and I've had some good friends over the years help out, and then of course your staff and everything. So, as you guys know, it definitely takes a group effort and everything, and we're the faces of the drive-in. So these are what people see and come to when they have questions and stuff.
Right.
But there's always something behind the scenes, to make it work. And so we'll see what 2023 holds for us. And
it's going to be our best year yet, man.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Drive-ins are on everybody's tongue, and I'm telling you, it's one of those things. I really think the shift is coming back, and we found that before it was a hard sell, getting those indoor people to love the drive-in experience, where now I think a lot of people are preferring
the open, free aspect of seeing a movie outdoors and really getting a value when there's no value in an indoor theater anymore, unfortunately.
Well, you are right about that, and you're right about also about the people discovering the drive-in, they have discovered it and they want to come back, and I mean you can't beat the experience. And I don't think an indoor versus a drive-in, there's no comparison. They're two totally different experiences, and depends, and two totally different price points too, I might add. So the value's built in. Yep. Everyone says, well, what do you the first time was like, what do you do there? What do you have? I said, well, you make your own fun. Really, we've got a playground, things like some games and stuff, but you guys, bring board games, bring whatever, have some fun.
That's right.
And
what a weird concept.
Yeah.
Talk about a step back in time. So I don't have to bring my phone. What a weird thing.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do I plug into? So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. This has been such a treat.
No, the honor's mine. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for reaching out. I appreciate everything, you guys, and keep doing what you're doing, please.
Thank you, brother. Same to you.
All right.
And, if you want
A little tip as far as maybe a piece of merch, just a t-shirt that says, hit the gooch.
Hit the gooch.
I'll show myself out.
The family
Mark, that's up
drive-in.
to you whether you cut this or not.
All right.
Family
we'll table that discussion, as Adam always says. So, but you guys take care, man, and keep doing
you're
what
the
you're doing.
best.
All right, y'all stay in touch, okay? Please.
All right, my man. And
All
on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.